Hello everyone, I'm Paul, and today I'm going to do a little tractor surgery. As you know, last week I basically obtained a subframe and I unboxed it. Today is the installation of the subframe and all the parts that come along with it. So let's get started. So I'm just going to show you here basically what I've done so far is I've laid out all the nuts and bolts, all the hardware that I'm going to be using for this job. As you can see, I've got them all, and I've also tagged them, basically the size of each thing and where they're going. It just makes the job a little bit quicker and a little bit easier. Down below I also got some more of the hardware, and I've got a few of the things such as some thread lock and other stuff that I need to do the job. So anyways guys, the very first part we're going to do is we're going to make an adjustment to the hydraulics. My tractor has a third function valve on it, and in order for me to mount the backhoe on, I have to make a modification to the lines on the going to the third function valve from the power beyond and the return to tank valve. So, or return to tank port rather. So anyways, I'm just going to show you here quickly, if you come on my side here, what I have. This is my current system. So basically I have my power beyond port, and it feeds down into the P port on my third function valve. So that's basically this right here, this connection here that I've got the wrench on it. I've broke it loose because I'm going to need to move the line a little bit. Now this line is going to stay there. It's going to continue to feed my third function valve. Basically, you don't want your third function valve or any other valve going down the line to be downstream to your backhoe. That way your backhoe is not meant to, on its return to tank port, it's not meant to have high pressure coming through there. You could basically mess the backhoe up, the valve, the O-rings and such, or you can end up with some back pressure in there. So the other line here that you see here is the T port, and it goes to the return to the tank. And if we look just up here underneath, you can see where my finger is. That's the return to tank port. I've loosened it up, and that's the line that we're going to make a change. So we're just going to set this diagram aside. I'll just put it up here. And this is how the new system's going to work. So as I mentioned, we're going to keep the power beyond going to the port P on the third function valve. But now when we return to tank, the T is now going to go all the way up, and it's no longer going to be here to return to tank, but rather it's just going to continue, and it's going to go out and feed my backhoe. So I'm going to install a new line for that. Now, in order to return to the tank, the backhoe will now return to the tank, and basically I'm going to install a hard line where I'm actually taking this one out here. So the very first thing I've already done is that I've loosened it up. Hopefully I can reach up in here. This was really hard to get in here with the wrench and to loosen it up. This was so tight, so you might not be able to see really well in there, but I just got a few threads left to pull it out. Now you got to be careful because there's two crush washers in here. There's going to be one on the top and one on the bottom. This thing is very tight in there still, but getting it loose. It's there we go, I got it loose. There we got the washer. It's trying to slip away. So now I've already undone the other end of the hose at the third function valve, so I'll be able to just pull this out. So here on the bottom there's a crush washer, and then we've got the bolt to take out, and there's a crush washer up on the top. So, and you can see the little port here where the fluid flows through that when it returns to the tank. So I'm just going to pull this, I grabbed the wrong hose there. Where'd that piece of the hose, oh there it is. So I'm just going to pull this hose out. Like I mentioned, I already disconnected it. That's the hose, so that's the length of it that goes to, this end was connected to the third function valve. So we no longer need this hose. This hose is getting replaced from the return to the tank from the third function valve by this other hose that I've got up here. I've already connected it at the third function valve to save time, and I've rerouted it basically on the same path as what that other hose was. that I just pulled out. So I'm going to pull this out here. Now, instead of the third function valve line that I just pulled out and replaced with this one, it's no longer going to feed the return to tank, but rather it's going to power beyond to the backhoe. So I'm just going to put this one aside, because what we need to do is we need to install a hard line, and that's why I've loosened this here up. This power beyond a line here, I've loosened it up. So I'm going to over here just grab the hard line for it. Now, with the back of the subframe backhoe kit, there's two lines that come with it. There's just one that's, you know, it's got quite a bit of a bend in it. This is the outlet pipe, and this one here is the inlet pipe. So this basically would have, if I didn't have a third function valve, this would be going here to the power beyond port, and the power beyond port basically would go directly to the, on this end here, there would be the hose from the backhoe, and it would power my backhoe. And this line here is basically the return to tank either way. So we're not going to use this this one here for this application. We don't need to use it. What I need to do is get a couple new washers. So I'm going to get rid of the old washers, and we're going to put two new ones. So the kit does come with the washers for the hard line, and it also came with a couple O-rings for the other line that we're not, or the other hard line that we're not going to use. Just gotta be careful I don't drop these on the floor. So I've got, now I'm going to take my bolt. Basically I'm going to put one on the top, and then I'm going to take the other one, make sure I've got this going the right way. This here bracket will tie into the subframe when I mount it. This here goes on the line, or into the line like that, and the other washer goes in on the bottom. So now the reason why I loosened the other hose, the power beyond hose, is because I need to get it out of the way to get this in here. It's very, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my light in here, guys, because it's pretty dark maybe in there. Hopefully we can see a little bit better. Not a whole lot, but maybe a little bit. I'm trying to get my cart out of the way. So it's a very tight fit in there, and try not to drop that washer. There we go. Just barely got it in there. Now I know this is going to take a couple minutes to get it lined up, because I can barely get my hands in there. Maybe if you come up above on the other side of me that you can see, I'm not sure, but I'm just going to move around. So it's just a matter of, that's a very tight fit in there. It's a very precise fit. So it's going to take me a couple minutes probably to get that bugger in there. I think I just dropped it in nice. So it's just going quickly. Let's see if it tightens in. So the only thing I want to do right now is I just want to drop it in there to get it started, and then I'm going to leave it loose. I just got to stick my hand in there again. I'm going to leave it loose because I need to adjust the other end of it to the subframe, as I mentioned. So I think I've got it there now. I'm not 100% sure. You definitely don't want to cross thread something like this. It's very difficult to get. No, I don't have it. So I gotta move the light back on the other side. This is one of the harder things to do on here, and the only reason is it's hard to get your hand in there. The only way to make it really easy would be to take the fenders off, or to take this bracket that goes between the fenders. So basically I'm doing both fenders, and I didn't want to have to do that. So just trying in there. All right, guys. We'll get that in there, that little bugger. Now basically what I have to try to do is get it as straight up and down as possible in order to get it to drop into the right spot, because it's a very fine thread. Okay, guys. So guys, what I'm going to do is just going to go off camera here for a minute, because this is going to take a few minutes to do. Well, all right, guys, the hard line for the return to tank that comes from the backhoe is attached. I actually got my wife out here to thread it in there, because I just couldn't get my hand enough in there, and she did it like in 2 seconds. Unreal. Anyways, guys, the next thing to do is we're going to attach the hose. The hose gets a fitting here. Actually, I better tape it up first. I'm going to tape it. So the way I'm going to tape it is I'm going to wind the Teflon tape in the same direction as where I'm going to tighten the fitting on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in so that there's still 2 threads that are exposed at the end, so I don't cover those up. And then I'm going to wind this Teflon tape about 2 to 3. I'm probably going to go 3 times around. That's 1. That's 2. And 3 is going to be very much plenty. And that's 3. I want to keep away from the first couple threads, keep them exposed. And that way I can wind this guy on here a lot easier. So this is the female, or sorry, the male that plugs into the female on the backhoe. So I'm just going to put this on loose. That's good enough for right now. I'll tighten it later. And we're going to attach the hose here onto this one piece. I'm actually just going to put, before I do that, I'm going to put the plug on here. While I'm thinking about it, I'm just going to put the plug cap here, rather put it this way. I'm just going to put it on there for now so I don't get dirt in it as it's on the ground. And I'm going to attach the hose onto the hard line here for return to the tank. So I'm just going to put this on loose. I'm not going to tighten it up. Just going to put it on snug enough that I can get it out of the way for whatever I need to do. So that's going on loose. Everything I'm going to do is going to go on loose, and then I go back after and tighten everything up. So the next thing is I've got another hose here that's going to be for the power coming from the third function. And what I'm going to do is I got to tape this fitting as well. Same scenario, same way to do it. Wind it up. Couple threads from the end. Keep those couple ends exposed. And then it's going to wind it 1, 2, and then 3. Pull that there, and then I'm going to wind this guy on. Let's take the cap off there. And this goes to the backhoe to give it some power. That's coming from my third function valve. So now we've got the hoses all connected up. What the next thing to do is I'm going to make sure this is out of the way a little bit. I'm going to bring the subframe up, and I'm going to mount the subframe that's down here. So I've got to go on this side here, guys, and you're going to go on the other side. And I'm just going to move the hose out of the way here. I don't need it here right now. And hopefully this guy's going to be enough out of the way that it's not going to cause me any problems. Now, the reason why I left it on loose, because if I have to adjust or take something off or whatever, it's very easy to do rather than have it all tightened up and then trying to redo it that way. So what I've done is I've got some lead wire, some yellow lead wire here, and I'm going to lift this up. It's quite heavy, but actually before I do that, what I want to show you is that here are all the bolt holes for the frame, and down here there's some more bolt holes. There's dirt in there, guys, so you got to clean them all out before you actually, and I've already done that to save time on the video. I use this little brush here, scrubbed it in here a little bit, and then I used a little bit of air and I blew them all out, so they're all nice and clean. So that's just a little tip there that you got to try to make sure that you do. Otherwise your bolts are going to grind in there. Alright guys, the next thing to do is to get the subframe on. So what I've done, you can see here, I've got the back end of it on. I put one bolt, and this is the front end here. I've lifted it up, and I'm just putting the front bolts. Up here you're going to get a flat washer, a lock washer, and then the nut. And then there's going to be a second one here. Got it ready. So everything I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it on loose for now, because I have to wiggle things around to get all the bolts in, because the weight of the frame itself basically will sit on the bolt a little bit and make it hard to thread some things in. Now this guy didn't thread in very nice here. Just going to change the side of it. So there we go. Now I've got, what I'm going to do when I come back and tighten them up as well, I'm going to put a little thread locker on these ones here and a few of the other ones. Some of these bolts here, basically, I've put some anti-seize on these ones already, so they're ready to go. So when I insert them, they're not going to get all rusted up, or won't be so difficult to pull out. So the next piece on top of the subframe, before I start mounting all these bolts, actually I'm going to do these bolts here first, and then we're going to put this connecting plate here. So I'm just going to put these ones here. I put anti-seize on them as well, so they just go into the axle piece here. So I'll just try to wind it in. Now you see me shaking it a little bit. The reason why I'm shaking it a little bit is because the weight wants to sit on the bolt as I try to thread it in. So I'm just taking the weight off the bolt. So we're going to put all 4 of them on, get them all started in there. And then we'll put the plate on. Just easier with the plate off here. The plate won't be in the way because I can tighten them up after. So, oh, it's hard to get them started. Until I get these ones tightened up, I don't think these ones are going to be easier to get in. Okay, so those are just started. Now with the connecting plate, basically there's a little groove here on the bottom that sits on top of the bolt that's there. And then we put these 2 long bolts that go down here, that go into the frame of the tractor. So I'm just going to hang that loose there, and then I'm going to take these smaller bolts, take one of these, we're going to put it in from behind, down here on the bottom. There's 3 of them that go in, except I got to do it this way, put the bolt like that, and they're going to get a washer, flat washer, a spring lock washer, and then they're going to get a nut. And there's 2 more that go here. We'll just insert these here, go from underneath here. This is going to make, with this frame here, what it's going to do, it's going to make it a little harder for me to get my filter off that's in behind there, which I'm not going to look forward to. Before I be able to get in at the filter to for the hydraulics. But anyways, it doesn't really matter. These here too, I'll put a little bit of Loctite or thread locker on there after, as well as a secondary, to keep the nuts from falling off. So here we got a couple more. That's all nice and loose. And then we've got 2 more up here that go. Again, these ones will get a little bit of thread locker on them as well. Now the thread locker that I'm using is going to just use this Permatex here. It's very liquidy. I don't like it very much. I like the one that actually locked tight better than this stuff. Anyways, that's the one I have for today. So put this second last bolt in here. And then we got 1 more longer bolt that goes through here. Okay guys, the next thing to do is I've got a bolt here, and the hard line for the return to tank that I installed, it's right here, and there's a little hole on the bracket here on the connector plate right there that I've got to connect it to. So I'm going to pass the bolt on the other side and try and get that lined up so that we come through. Oh boy, that's hard lining up. There we go. So I'm going to put a little blue thread lock on that so it stays on here. I'm going to tighten this guy down. Okay guys, so my hard line is set up and ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, everything that you see me install right now, I'm going to torque it all to spec, and then from there we'll go to the next step. All right, guys, that's the last bolt to be tightened on here. Everything's torqued to spec. So just if you wanted to know for information, these ones here, according to the manual, is 145. All the bolts are 145, and the ones up in the front, 145 to 166 foot-pounds. These ones here, the smaller ones, are all at 59 foot-pounds. On the left side of the tractor, you can see the frame and the cross plate here is exactly the same as on the other side. Same bolt pattern, everything's the same. The larger bolts are 24 millimeter, same the head on the nut. They're torqued between 145 and 165 or 166 pounds or foot-pounds. And the smaller ones here, there's 17 millimeters, and they're torqued at 59 foot-pounds. These are all the same, basically all 24, and same down to the other end. Now, I just wanted to show you here, basically, I'm going to lose a little bit of room to get my filter off right there because of the frame that's going to be here. And also, you can see here, this line here and this one here, the two lines. These are the lines that are coming across. That's the thinner one here is the one that goes to my P port and to the Power Beyond port, the Power Beyond port on the tractor and the P port on the third function valve. This is the heavier line. It's the return to the tank on, or the T port on the third function valve. I'll show you that in a second. And this goes out to my backhoe, and it will feed my backhoe's inlet as far as the to get the fluid into the backhoe. So I'm going to go down here. I'll just show you underneath. I'm just going to move the lighting so you can see a little bit better. You can see how it comes down here, and I've got it going all the way down. And then you can see here, there's my third function valve right up here. It's going to bring a little bit more lighting in there so we can see that a little bit better. And I'm not sure whether you'll be able to see the T and the P, but anyways, you got the solenoids on this side here, and then this here is the P port. So this is going to going to the Power Beyond, or the Power Beyond from the tractor comes down to here to the P port, and the T port is this one here. And this goes to the tank originally, but now it's going to go to my backhoe. So that's not too bad for that. It was a pretty easy job to get this all hooked in. And then on the top, I don't think you'll be able to see it, but way up on the top there's two ports, and those ports go to my valve here. I'll show you on the, not the valve, but the hose on the front that connects to the third function. You'll see right here. I'll show you right here. So this is where I connect my grapple right here, the in port and the out port. So for the going to the tank and going to the Power Beyond. Also, what I've done is I've tightened all the hoses. I've tightened it up here, the return line to the tank, the Power Beyond to Power Beyond port to the third function valve, and the line down here going out to the tank as well. I've added I've tightened the end of the couplers here, and I put the caps on. So basically the next thing to do is to test the line to make sure everything's working in a way that it's not leaking. So that's connected there. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to start the tractor up. Once I start the tractor up, I'm just going to come and check all the lines where I made the connections to make sure nothing's leaking. In addition to, I'm going to check up at the front. I'm going to look at the third function valve to make sure where I did the connection for the new hose is not leaking as well. You've seen there I made the line jump a bit, and that's because I triggered the third function valve so I could put a little pressure through the line. So the next thing obviously is to go to each one, and the best way to check to see if anything's leaking rather than by eye is just with your fingers, because you'll feel anything that's been leaking. Whether it's, if there's some fluid there, then you know you have to tighten it up a little bit. Always under tighten before you over tighten, that's for sure. So everything looks good from what I can see, or feels good rather. There's nothing leaking anywhere. It's all nice and dry. So I'm going to go and check the front port over here on the Power Beyond. Not the Power Beyond, but rather, yeah, the Power Beyond that goes to the third function valve. I'm going to go over there and check that. Well guys, everything seems to be nice and dry, and that's a perfect sign that everything's connected correctly as far as the lines being tight enough and so on. Since there's a few more steps to do, basically got to take care of all the lights, got to take care of the seat. Those are the next steps. So the video is getting a little bit long at this point, so what I've decided to do is to cut it here, and next week we'll see the remaining parts of the install as for the third function, or sorry, the subframe kit. So anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have, please give it a thumbs up. Once again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Gelling Outdoors.